Thank you for joining us, Alex. You've joined us in a special episode of Subscription Matters, and it's everything that's got to do with the subscription industry. And you're the perfect person to talk about that. Alex, could you just tell us a little bit about Pendula and what you do there, and then we can talk about mastering churn, prediction, and prevention strategies. This is something that a lot of companies really need to understand and focus on.
Hey, so good to be here, Jack. Looking forward to chatting about churn and retention and everything else about that. So to introduce myself, I'm Alex Colvin, the CEO and founder of Pendula. Pendula is a customer engagement platform. We've been around for about 7 years, Australian born and growing. Now overseas in Singapore and in the UK, have a lot of focus on retention-based use cases, particularly in the subscription world. A lot of crossover with those industries. You know, we love telcos, love utilities, love media businesses, really anything, insurance companies that has that ongoing relationship with customers. And our real drive that we have is to really defy the limits that normally exist with modern marketing automation platforms to ensure that we can develop relationships that are more akin to the modern world. Something that's so important with subscription-based models, right? You know, we need to not only sell them the initial product, but keep them as a customer, right? So that means delivering value and building those relationships.
Absolutely. Every customer matters in the world of subscription. And as you know, there's a report by McKinsey saying that there's a report that it's expected to reach the market size is about 2 trillion in 2026. So it's massive. So this is really to highlight the importance of churn management and how to identify early warning signs and implement proactive measures and craft some personalized retention strategies that leave no room for second chances. Can you briefly explain why managing churn is so critical in the world of subscriptions, and what are the potential consequences of not addressing it effectively?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a few thoughts that really kind of drive the need for churn prevention in the subscription world. I mean, the first thing is subscription products and the models that are really being taken to market today, and that are scaling and that we're seeing pop up left, right, and center. The first thing to really recognize is there's not really a lot of new products that are entering the market for the first time under these subscription models. These are existing products that already were being sold under transactional models that are now transitioning to a new commercial model. Now, in what that basically means from a mechanical perspective is you're no longer expecting a large upfront revenue stream that would be powered by transactional-like models. Think white goods, where you used to buy the fridge, now we rent the fridge. Think about televisions and other electronic goods, to your mobile phones, even services that previously you'd be paying one-off fees for. Now that we're moving to those subscription models, we're amortizing the value that customer would bring to the business over a longer period. Now, the theory behind the subscription model is pretty simple, right? It is you'll have that relationship with the customer for a longer time, and that commercially will outweigh the value, or as we know, customer lifetime value that a business has to its customers. Now, the one problem with that model is if a customer and their relationship with you doesn't last long enough in order to maintain that really revenue profile that you're trying to beat. So churn really is the thing that works against you right now. If we're thinking about the fundamentals in what we're doing whenever you move towards a subscription model, is you're investing in your customers and assuming that they're also going to invest in you. Now, the investment you're making is you're not taking that large upfront revenue. What does that mean? We need to ensure that our customers stick around. And ultimately, what that results in is, really a few key metrics that you need to care about. The first is the one that I mentioned before, that customer lifetime value. What underpins customer lifetime value, put really simply, it's how long a customer is spending with you for. So keep that customer for as long as you can, negate that churn. The other side of it is we'll keep that customer not only spending, but potentially even spending more. And we start bringing in metrics like net rate of retention, which isn't just churn, it's also how you can grow a customer over time. Now, fundamentally, what does that mean? Put really simply, churn prevention is the antidote to the leaking bucket. It's the solution that you must implement in order to make your transition to a subscription model work. Because if you don't, how you would have been better off just staying with the transactional model in the first place.
Yeah, that's very important type of strategy to make sure that you keep that customer. Because from your experience, it probably costs 4, 5, 6 more times to acquire a new customer than to actually keep and grow that customer, right?
Well, correct. I mean, there's the famous saying with marketing, you've got to touch a customer 6, 7, 8 times, depending on what industry you're in order to get them to acquire a product. What are you doing in that journey of those 6 or 7 touch points? Well, you're educating the customer, and that costs money every time that a customer is reading something, or they're clicking on something, or they walk down the street and a bus drives past with an ad on it. Hey, that's cost you money. Now, if you've got a customer that already exists, well, guess what? You don't need to educate them. All you've got to do is reinforce the value that you're delivering them. And that changes the profile of cost. Notwithstanding, a great thing about an educated customer is you don't have to rely on really it's called the onboarding costs. We all know that the cost to serve a customer normally is very heavy at the beginning of the relationship. Send out if they're an MBN customer, send the router out to them, send the technician out. They've got to wire things up. We've got to organize an appointment. You've got all the support calls to get that thing running. Once it's up and running, it's easy, right? The customer's happy they're getting the service. They're also, they're paying the bills and they're not calling you. Now, what that means is our profitability goes up. Also, on top of that, it also means that because you've got that ongoing relationship, you don't need to then go and sell them anything else again, unless it is an uptick. And the great thing about an uptick from an existing customer, and again, really powering why it's so much cheaper to sell to your existing customers, is, well, remember, they're already educated, but we also know a lot about them. Ultimately, what are you trying to figure out when a customer is best suited to be upsold a product? Well, it's what moment in time are they currently in, and what is happening around them that would necessitate a requirement to move to a new product where they would see value. Now, if they're a customer and we can see, for instance, if you've got a mobile phone customer who's on the silver plan and they've just hit the limit of their plan and they're now getting charged overage, well, we know that, and we know exactly when to hit them. We're targeted, we're personalized, and we're timely. Now, you can't do that with acquisition. And this really is where the power sits of the existing customer and ultimately the subscription model. And that is, who these people are, they know who you are. You have a relationship as a result of that. And because you know what is happening around them, you're just positioned in a way that it is cheap, effective, and ultimately really easy to go and drive more revenue out of these bases.
Oh, absolutely. The importance of identifying those early warning signs, or those kind of indications that they may churn or may need additional services. You provided some good examples and signs. So how can the businesses effectively spot them before it's too late?
I mean, there's always the famous analogy of, it's really easy to go and make an omelette from an egg, but it's really hard to make an egg from an omelette. What does that mean in the world of subscription relationships? Ultimately, it starts at the beginning of the journey, right? You can't be reactive. If a customer is showing real signs of churn, it's probably too late. And you see this reactive behavior just across the board, and it pains me how much effort businesses put into acquisition and how little effort they put into really understanding what those leading indicators are. Now, there's two really simple tactics that exist within this. The first is you've got something that is really unique when a customer is a customer, and that is you have a feedback loop. The first thing that most customers fail to do is just ask customers how they're actually feeling. Now, that's a good leading indicator if someone is happy with your service or not. That's how us as humans with our personal relationships interact, right? If you feel like there might be something going wrong, will you ask the question, right? And companies can do that. There's lots of mediums, lots of techniques that one can do, and also the way that channels are now established through your digital channels like your SMSs and your WhatsApp, and also your telephony channels with call centers and online chats and whatnot, how easy it is to get that feedback loop. The second thing as well, which is something that really has been pioneered by the telecommunications industry, which, if you think back to subscription models, it was basically telcos, energy companies, and gyms that were the original subscribers. Everyone else has kind of followed suit. But what that has meant is that these businesses have been operating in a world where, one, their products are highly commoditized, it's really difficult to differentiate. And secondly, the price sensitivity as a result of that commoditization can drive a lot of churn, irrelevant of how good your customer experience is. What this comes down to is effectively a really simple thing when you think about how do you engage with your customers to ensure that customers don't churn. This is the proactive piece, and that is reinforcing value. So a great example of that is you'll have instances where you have the ability to delight your customers. A month is happening, they're a customer that's been yours for 6 months, and it looks like that customer's about to hit overage. Now, you could take a view of saying, well, let's charge them overage. We'll take that revenue. Another view is, well, let's see this as an opportunity to really extend our relationship for many years into the future and see the value of that lifetime value drive to our revenue base by giving them a free product. So, let's say we're about to hit our...
Everyone loves free, of course.
Everyone loves free things, that's right. We're about to hit our data limit. Hey, Jack, here's another gigabyte. You've been such a great customer the last 6 months. It's a free gigabyte for you. It's gonna mean that you're not going to get charged $10 extra this month. Now, we need to make sure that Jack knows this, so we're going to tell you. It could be a text message, it could be an email, or it could be a phone call, whatever it would be. Now, this is where most companies get it wrong. They'll tell you once. But the reality is we've done something for you, and we've done something that is differentiated. So what a really focused, churn, conscious business would do is wait to the next month and remind Jack, hey, mate, remember last month we gave you that 1 gigabyte. Wasn't that great that we saved you $10? I hope you enjoyed using the data. And the month after, again, hey, 3 months in a row that you've paid your bill and it's all been the same cost, all because we gave you that free data. Now, you can't do this forever, but there's a certain cycle that you need to go to of giving and reminding. Now, the key impasse that really exists here is churn prevention needs to be focused on two sides. One is reacting based on the feedback that you have, but secondly, being proactive to your customers and giving them things that they value and making sure that you reinforce that value. So when they get to those stages in their life cycle where they are presented with options to move, that ultimately they remember the value that you delivered them. And as a result of remembering that value, they don't move, and hence reducing that churn propensity that they have.
Oh, that's really fantastic, Alex. So yeah, that example you've just given, I don't really see a lot of companies doing that. So, I mean, like I'll work with some of the big telcos with my own internet connection, but it's so important. Why do you think a lot of companies not necessarily do that, or they miss that? What is the reason for that?
It's a really good question. And look, ultimately it comes down to a few things. The first thing to realize is telcos are very, for instance, if we use that example, same for you, actually really any subscription business. In order to make them work, you need scale. Now, what does scale bring with it? It brings complexity. We see this time and time again. How hard is it to figure out that a customer that you have is about to hit overage? And to know who they are and know how to contact them and make sure that you follow all the compliance rules around privacy and ensure that you don't cross over with all these other journeys that you might be putting them through. it's actually really difficult. And this really comes down to the tooling, right? Most of these telcos have spent huge amounts of dollars investing in very efficient billing platforms. Now, those billing platforms historically have been very separate from the market-facing tools, like the call center tools, like the marketing tools. What that means is you'll have, and I'm sure your telco customers, have really talented people in their marketing and product teams who want to do this. But the main reason why they're not doing it is the effort and cost in order to actually get that data and reach out to the customer at that right point in time is a lot simpler said than done. And we kind of internally at Pendula refer to this as the limits, right? The limits that marketers are presented with are data limits almost always. I'm still yet to meet a marketer that has said, I have access to all the data that I need in the right format that I need it. That's not a problem for me. It seems to be the number one problem everywhere. Now, how do you solve that? Well, put really simply, it's not actually an activity that you need to solve in silos. And this has unfortunately been the path that a lot of businesses have taken. They go and buy a CDP, then they go and buy a data lake. And next thing you know, we've gone and bought all this machine learning as well that sits on top of it, creates all these pretty reports that you give to your CMO or your CEO. You then go down this path of saying, well, the data's not clean. Okay, now we need to do a big data activity. And the data teams are in, the data isn't there. So let's get a data team. Next thing you know, you've got a bunch of people who control the data, another team who analyze the data, another team who run the IT systems, then another team who actually owns the relationships as part of this. Now, the thing that we always try to encourage these businesses is, you don't need to use churn propensity, for example. You don't need to go and spend a huge amount of money to figure out why a customer is going to churn. Yes, you could correlate that someone who lives in a suburb that at a certain degree of temperature, and if they have brown eyes, and if they are left-handed, there might be some odd correlation that would stipulate that they're more likely to churn than another. But the reality is that it's really simple things that will tell you, really that 90-10 rule as to that they're likely to churn. Same thing with those engagement strategies. In order to actually run a campaign like that, people get so stuck in the complexity that it actually kills the actual activity in the first instance. And next thing you know, you go from changing the light bulb to changing the oil in the car and then repainting your house in order to get to that solution.
It seems like what you're saying is sometimes a lot of businesses tend to overcomplicate things.
Exactly right. Now, to run a campaign like that, is it that hard? It's not. And the reason for that is all you need to do is connect your tools together. How do you do that? Well, you buy workflow and you buy marketing automation tools. Sometimes they're combined. And that enables the marketer to be self-sufficient. They don't need to go to the data team. They don't need to go to IT. They can run it themselves. When they're enabled in that way, they can bring their ideas to life. And this is, I guess, something that we're really passionate about in our business is defying those limits. And what we really try and drive forward to our customers and our users is to ask them, well, where are their limits? Almost always it is in data, and look to unlock those in a way that they're enabled, not other people in their business. That's the key. And it's unfortunate because you're right, it's such a simple concept, but the restriction that these businesses are placed under and the people who are employed to do a great job are basically trying to walk around with one arm tied behind their back. We can take away that restriction, all these churn prevention activities just start to fly. And the performance comes very, very, very quickly with it because the simple things aren't being done. Do the simple things, you'll get the biggest impact.
No, absolutely. I like what you said when you alluded to the fact that, I like what you're saying, that you're kind of putting yourself in, you're acting as the customer, and when you would like to be reminded and when you would like to be informed. This is so important because sometimes we want to do things, we want to drive initiatives, but sometimes it's not really correlating to the specific customer profile or sets that you're dealing with, which goes back to some of your comments. Just in time type of communication and messaging is so important as well, and knowing when's the right time.
Oh, indeed. I mean, you've got to remember that people have lives to live. They're not They don't exist to be your customer. You exist to service them. And what that means is they're going through a lot, right? And the timing is so important. The environmental factors that exist. Great examples of that, if we've got an energy customer who's been a subscriber to our energy service for years and years and years, and if we want to cross-sell them solar, not only is it a good idea to pick people who own their house, but also maybe you want to wait till a sunny day. Now that timing's so important, right? So where does all that come through? Well, your marketers will have that as an idea, but to bring it to life, that's the key thing. Pick the right time when the people who you're trying to provide value to want something and recognize the value, and your conversion rates will just go through the roof.
It's funny you just said that, because I have actually just spent a few $1,000s upgrading my solar. Because
was it a sunny day when you did that, Jack?
Yeah.
Or was it a rainy day?
Yeah, summer's coming, and I just thought, well, make the most of it. And obviously there's a lot of incentive right now to go solar as well. So yeah, you're right, absolutely. Those things are like really fundamental, just cyclical as well, taking advantage of those market changes and the environment as well. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you is, obviously with the advent of AI and technology and everyone's talking about it, how does this kind of play into the whole churn prevention strategies? What's your take on that?
I mean, look, it's probably an entire separate podcast.
Yeah. I just wanted to get a little bit of a snippet.
At a really high level, look, AI is such a broad topic, right? Ultimately, you've got two main categories that exist right now. You've got your classic machine learning that's been around for years and years and years. The way I like to categorize machine learning, you analyze your broad customer base and you try and infer what is going to happen. Generative AI on the other side of it, most people see generative AI as a tool that will generate content. At Pendula, we actually see the real power in generative AI is the ability to create robotic process automation. The exciting thing about generative AI is that you can assess individuals on an individual basis. And when you power a forecast that is based on the masses and then personalize by combining that machine learning with the generative AI, personalize on the individual basis, what you are effectively presenting is the ability to be more personalized than ever before, understand your customers more than you've ever had before, but also bring those marketing strategies to life to consider each individual customer as if they all had their own individual account manager. So, I mean, we see huge potential value that exists within that sphere. And something that we're investing heavily in right now in our platform.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And so where do you see, what's the journey now for companies in the subscription world? What are the practical steps that companies that aren't doing it so well now, how should they jump into it? And obviously iterate as they go. What's your thoughts around that?
Look, I think the main thing is the shift that these companies have gone through over the last several years has been pretty significant, right? The investments they've made have primed them. Setting up the billing system, setting up the CRM, setting up your back-end platform, provisioning, orchestration, that whole order to cash process, the streamlining of that really has been done now. What that means is these businesses are now primed to act upon all that investment that has been made. The realization that a lot of them need to have is the way that you engage with customers in a transactional model is different to how you need to engage with customers in a subscription model. And that requires different tooling. The key to unlocking that is, one, to rid yourself of your old marketing tech. It is not primed for what you're trying to do, and bring in the next generation. What does a subscription business need? It needs a feedback loop. That means you need conversational-like interactions, if that is telephony or digital channels. So invest in conversational messaging. It is so critical to get those feedback loops through to ensure that you can hear from your customers and understand when they're happy and when they're sad, in order to either promote those positive experiences or mitigate the negative ones. The other side of it as well is to invest in tools that connect to those databases that you've brought in and all the systems that are downstream to remove those limitations. If you can do those two things, The marketing teams already have the strategies and already know what they want to do in order to drive upsells, reduce churn, and ultimately convert more customers through their acquisition channels. This is the opportunity really that most businesses are now primed for. And it's only because of the investment they've had in the underlying platforms over the last 10 years that's enabling them to do this now. The exciting thing is this is something that we really enjoy doing as well. This is where the value is realized. You've spent all the money, you've got the foundations, you've got the roof on your house, you've got the walls. This is the finishing touch. And this is really that next evolution. It's the engagement race now, no longer the subscription race. That race has already been run.
Wow, no, that's a great insight, Alex. And I mean, from your experience, right, with Pendula and how you've seen the industry and the market evolve over the last few years, and obviously where it's going to now with all the AI kind of technology coming in, are you seeing businesses still very focused on that acquisition kind of journey versus the retention and the attrition? How do you see it so far? Because there's so much to unlock at the moment, and I kind of feel that maybe not every business realizes the true value of these things that you're just mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, you need to remember when these companies were transactional operations, their acquisition engine was also the solution to churn. Because how did you sell to your existing customers? Well, you had to sell to them again. So this is really just a bit of a hangover that still exists. They were already focusing on churn. It was just a different way that you had to solve it. Now that we have an ongoing relationship, businesses are starting to move. We're seeing this across many of the more advanced industries in banking and telco, utilities, even financial services, businesses like insurance companies, where they're really seeing that their customers need to be treated differently to their prospects. You're seeing churn teams, you're seeing churn numbers being performance targets of individuals within businesses. So that maturity is starting to occur. The key thing that really was stepping between these teams and this next engagement forefront was the underlying platforms. Now that most companies are getting to that point of evolution, that their platforms are there, it's really the next step, right? It's so logical that you would start to review the customer lifecycle and how you interact with your customers. So personally, I'm quite excited about how the industry is evolving. Businesses are smarter than they've ever been before. They're listening to their customers and they're changing and evolving at a rate faster than they ever had before. And ultimately, the underlying commercial models are driving the right decisions. So I think as a customer, I'm excited to be serviced better. I think it's naturally going to occur. And as a software provider that's really running in that industry, very excited as well to see how much value we can deliver to our customers and see their success as we kind of partner into the future.
And where do you see, very quickly before we finish off, and thanks for sharing all those insights, Alex, so where do you see Pendula now over these next few years? What's the expectation? How do you see Pendula growing and capitalizing on all these opportunities?
Oh, look, at the end of the day, Pendula exists to serve our customers, just like most of these subscription businesses. Put really simply, our drive is to ensure that our customers succeed. And if they succeed, then we succeed as well. So really, what are we going to do? One, we're going to continue to defy as many of the limits of our customers as possible and really invest heavily in that. But secondly, the whole view of that retention strategy, we really value that feedback loop and being able to reinvest in the feedback that we're hearing from our customers and hopefully enable them. That's really the opportunity that we see. And that's the thing that gets us out of bed in the morning, right? We want to be able to see the end result of our customers trying to really up their game when it comes to building the relationships with their customers. And the more that we can spread that message, the more that we can enable, the businesses that we're partnering with, the better that we're going to sleep at night and the better our product is going to get. And ultimately, hopefully we can make a better difference to the businesses that are backing us by, utilizing our software and helping drive more innovation, in our platform.
Absolutely. Alex, thank you so much for providing a lot of actionable insights and real world examples. I will continue to follow Pendula in your journey. And thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us today.
Great to be here, Jack. Thanks so much, mate.